Hello, my fellow page turners, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Matthew, the man with the hat who reads, and let's talk about books and sequels and such. Now, I'm always a fan of a book that wraps up its entire plotline in one volume. But every once in a while, you have those books that you want more when it gets done. You're like, I wish this story would continue. I want to see more with these characters, more with this world, more whatever. And so for today's video, I thought I would just take a look at 5 books that I think deserve or need a sequel. And obviously, like I said, not every book needs a sequel, and sometimes the sequel can ruin the book that you originally started with. And that's true. And I'm also going to kind of look at this as, I'm not going to go into plot points because I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm not going to be like, oh, this is what needs to happen in the sequel of this book. I'm just literally going to kind of give you a synopsis of the first book, well, the proposed first book, and then just talk about why I think it deserves a sequel and what kind of stuff a sequel might entail without going into much for details. So we're going to start off firstly with the most recent of these books I have here, because I have 5 of them here. And this is Captain Moxley and the Embers of the Empire by Dan Hanks. Now, that's an awesome cover, by the way. This is a very Indiana Jones-esque type story, 1950s era. It's got like a pulpy cover. It's got that 1990s mummy movie or Indiana Jones type look to it. I mean, Nazis are our villains essentially. So, you know, it's like, this is an Indiana Jones-esque adventure, and there's a lot you could do with these characters. And the good thing is this, oh, good or bad, depending on how you look at it, it does kind of end with a cliffhanger ending. So it's like they are setting up that there will be more. There has been no announcements of any more yet that I've been able to find. But Hanks did just publish a different novel under Angry Robot, so I'm hoping that he's going back to this and we'll be continuing this. This was a great, fun adventure, and I'd love to see more with the characters, more with the treasures that they're searching for and all that. And hopefully we get more in this soon. The chances of this one getting sequel is probably the best of the books I have here because it's the most recent. So here's hoping. All right, and then we have another Angry Robot. This is the last one, I promise. I'm not going all Angry Robot, but this was Sean Grigsby's Daughters of Forgotten Light. Now, I talked about this one a little bit before. I believe it was in my top 10 of the year. I talked about this as an honorable mention, I believe. And I really loved the world they created in this. I mean, they're on like a space penal colony, and it's all women, but they don't really have any guards, so they just essentially let them fight amongst themselves, and they're split into gangs, and there's light cycles, there's one group that's a bunch of cannibals. I mean, this is just, it's insane. And I loved every page of this. And I really hope there's more to this. This was published in 2018. So it's been a few years now. And it does kind of wrap up, but it does also kind of have an open ending that you could do more with it. So I'm really hoping they do more with it, that Sean does more with it, because I loved this world and I would love to see more with these characters in this world. All right, for my third one, I have A. Lee Martinez's Monster. Now, A. Lee Martinez has written a lot of different books, and most of them are standalones. It wasn't until Constance Verity that he actually had some sequels to stuff, at least as far as I can tell. But this one, of his novels, I think this is the one that could be the easiest to kind of branch off into a series, because it's the character named Monster runs a pest control agency. And when they say pest control, everybody thinks, oh, it's something simple. But no, he's like catching things like ogres, trolls, yetis, dragons, that kind of stuff. And his girlfriend doesn't know this, but he also doesn't know that his girlfriend is actually a demon from hell. And it's hilarious, because that's A. Lee Martinez in a nutshell. His novels are hilarious. And if you haven't read any of them, you really should. We should do a video about him. That'd be great. But yes, this is probably the one of his that I've read as a standalone that would be the most prominent for a sequel because of just the setup and the premise. But this was published back in 2009, and there's been no word of a sequel, so I'm going to take a gander and say we're not getting a sequel anytime soon. But that's okay, because like I said, a lot of his are standalone, and they've all been a lot of fun, so I can't be too angry. As long as he keeps putting out great books, I don't care. All right, so then we have Benjamin Percy's The Deadlands. Now, this book does kind of help a self-contained story. I mean, there isn't a need for a sequel, but I would love to see more in the world that he's created here. And it does, if I remember right, it does kind of have a little bit of an opening ending so that he could do more. Yeah, it does kind of have an open ending that there could have been more done with this, but essentially it's 150 years in the future. A flu-like plague has pretty much wiped out a lot of humanity, and these two guys are going west to kind of see if there's any survivors left. So it's almost like a retelling dystopian, futuristic Lewis and Clark story, which on paper sounds amazing, and it is. It's a fantastic book. It does have a couple of horror elements. It's more of a thriller adventure, but it does have some horror elements. And this was actually the first book by him I read. I really enjoyed it. This one in Red Moon, which I want to reread someday, but he's just a phenomenally good author. And I would love to see more of this world. This was published back in 2015. He has written other novels since then. So I'm going to guess that we're not seeing any more of this world, especially because most of what he's written have not been sequels anyway. He just has kind of standalone stuff, and that's fine, again. But if he was going to do a sequel, I would kind of hope it'd be this one, just because. And my fifth and final book I want to talk about today, for books that I think needed or deserve a sequel, is Robert J. Sawyer's Red Planet Blues. Now, Robert J. Sawyer has written some sequels to stuff before, and it's been a long time since I read this one, actually. It came out in 2013. It was expanded from an original short story that was older than that. But just a brief synopsis of this is a detective on Mars. I mean, and the book's not terribly thick. But I'm thinking, okay, you have a great setup here, and it is an enclosed story, but I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to see more. Give me more of these mysteries on Mars. I mean, that's just, it's a fun idea. It's unique, I think, for the most part. It's creative. The sci-fi is good. The characters are all fun. So I'm hoping that maybe someday Sawyer will go back to this world. I don't know, though, because, I mean, he's written a lot of stuff. I mean, he's a big sci-fi writer. If you haven't read any of his, there's a lot out there to pick from. But I'd love to see more from this world. I'd love to see more of this populated Mars where there's a detective. I mean, that's just, it's a fun idea. So yeah, that's what I have today. It's not a lot. Like I said, I just wanted to do a little video talking about 5 books that I thought deserve or needed a sequel that I've read, of course. I'm sure there's others out there. What do you have? Do you have any books that you think deserve or need a sequel? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep turning pages.